All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm playing host starting off this morning. I'm Samantha Studebaker-Carl, broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, freezing cold Indianapolis, Indiana. Today, we're going to continue our discussion of the book, Whatever Arises, Love That by Matt Kahn. And we're in chapter 4. If you're in the hard copy of the book, you'll find us starting on page 75. And at the part that says patterns of codependency and addiction. So in case your pages are different than mine are, just look for that section. That's what we're going to start with. But before we do that, I'm going to let my friends introduce themselves. And then Catherine's going to jump out and start reading this section. So go ahead and introduce yourselves, guys.
I'm Angel Studebaker down here in Beaufort, South Carolina. Feeling pretty lucky for the warm weather today and yesterday, I guess. Been hearing about the storm, so a little jealous, but still lucky.
Are you able to jump out, Dan? Are you connected yet? Nope. Maybe you're frozen. All right. Well, we got Lori on here and we have Dan. And Lori, I think, is still trying to figure out how to get her computer to work so she can talk to us. How about now? There you go, Dan.
I'm live now. Okay. Finally, when I got on, then all of a sudden saying my microphone's not working. I'm like, what? Wait. Okay. So I'm Dan Sissick. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, where we've had a little cold spell here and not liking it. So I'll be glad when it gets warm again.
I think if you're ready, Catherine, you can go ahead and jump out. I think Lori's still trying to connect. So when she does, she can always jump out and share.
Okay. All right, this is Catherine Clement, and I'm going to flip over to Scribd and start reading. Patterns of codependency and addiction. As this conditioned distortion sets in, the experiences coming into your field are no longer reflected back out. Instead, they are recorded into the memory of your cells. Soon, the culmination of cellular memory creates a personal sense of identity, or I, to enhance, defend, and protect in response to others. Once the innocence of a baby becomes the conditioned temperament of a child, more cells are occupied with encoded memories to maintain the nervous system's overstimulated state. In that level of consciousness, there are two primary patterns that are regularly acted out: codependency and addiction. Codependency is when the quality of your experiences is independent upon the actions or behaviors of others. It is a belief that you cannot be happy until others are satisfied, and causes you to live for others while denying yourself in the process. Addiction is a habitual need for certain experiences or feelings in order to maintain a perceived sense of control in your life. The degree to which you build codependent relationships or exist in addictive behaviors suggests how overstimulated your nervous system may be. Parents may read this and imagine that if they were able to protect their babies from this conditioning process, they could spare them from the plight of human suffering. The truth is, each of us came to this planet for a wide spectrum of experiences while being guided by the perfection of the universe from start to finish. What a beautiful sentence. Equally so, having an understanding of the way in which conditioning is created never serves as a replacement for the gentleness, compassion, and loving support every child deserves. The path of radical honesty. One of the most immediate ways to unravel the nervous system is by being completely honest. Honesty is your innate ability to stand completely exposed, allowing the world to do what it may and say what it will, so that you may know who you are beyond the realm of ideas. When there is nothing to hide or withhold, the truth is spoken freely and at no one's expense. No matter the subject of discussion, the truth contains no form of judgment. Oh, goodness, we might want to stop because I'm going to have noise here.
Okay. Well, we could go ahead and talk a little bit about this, the first section of the codependency and addiction. And see here, gather my thoughts for a second.
I can move into.
You can move to a different place. Is that what you're going to say? Whenever you can jump back on, is fine. We could talk a little bit about this.
Okay, give me a.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, cool. So codependency says it's when the quality of your experience is dependent upon the actions or behaviors of others. It's a belief that you can't be happy until others are satisfied, and causes you to live for others while denying yourself in the process. Who's ever experienced that, where you feel like you just can't be happy unless someone else acts a certain way or does a certain thing? Or has anybody ever experienced something like that, or felt like, I don't know, I feel like as a parent, I don't know if it's necessarily like I couldn't be happy unless, or it was, I was struggling with that because everybody was wanting all the time. I don't know.
I can jump out a little bit and
Okay.
throw my thoughts in. I missed a little bit of that reading, but based on what you were just saying, I kind of do tend to be that way a little bit because of the type of background I've had growing up. I tend to get, I would say I'm kind of like a people pleaser to a point. I mean, when I get to a point where, I feel like I'm being used or something like that, then I tend to, pull back. But my general tendency is, because I think part of in my head, some of how I look at things, because of when I was younger and what I went through when I was younger, I need that edification, so to speak, of that. Okay, they're happy. I've done what has made them happy, so therefore nothing bad should happen. Even though I know that's kind of a wrong thought process, because the things I've lived through weren't because of me. But it's hard to overwrite, kind of like rewrite circuitry, so to speak, that's kind of hardwired into you because of something when you were younger. It's hard to make that change, and you kind of revert to it automatically. That's my thought and my process and how I look at it for me.
Yeah, I feel like
I
sometimes
think there are a lot of.
oh yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I think there are a lot of codependent people out there, whether we label it as that or not. But there's just a lot of people pleasers, because just like Dan said, that's something that you bring forward from childhood, I think. And some people bring it forward more than others. Some people get to a point where they're just like, okay, I don't care about what the rest of the world thinks about me. But most people, they really want to be accepted by their tribe. And I mean, gosh, that's what fuels the sales industry, is people buying clothes to try to impress other people, and hairstyles and cars that they like, everything, it's totally comparing people against each, comparing them with other people and the haves and have-nots, and then just from I loved the definition of addiction. How many people have ever heard that definition of addiction and could find that they themselves are addicted in some way, which of course everybody is to something.
Well, and I think, I can tell you there's been lots of times in my life, if this aspect of, you know, trying to make everybody else happy, or sacrificing my own whatever at the time for the happiness of other people. And, and as a parent, we do this, a lot, especially when our kids are really young, is, because they need everything from us. And so we don't even have time for ourselves. And, as we have that kind of tendency to, everybody gets taken care of before ourselves. And, so that's a difficult thing, particularly if that translates into your adulthood, when, you should be taking care of yourself. What's the thing they say, that it's you're supposed to take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And that's why they tell you to put the mask on in the airplane first before you try and assist anyone else. And yet a lot of us have this tendency to do it the other way around, where we take care of everybody else before we ever get around to doing something for ourselves. Even though, just like the lumberjack who goes into the woods and he keeps chopping trees, and then there's a guy right next to him who's over there sharpening his knife, and the guy who is sharpening his knife gets to chop down the trees a lot faster and a lot easier than the guy who thinks that, no, I don't have time to sharpen my knife, I've got to just keep chopping. And but what the reality is we've got to take care of ourselves first in order to be the best that we can be for anyone else. There was a Jim Rohn quote, I think it was Jim Rohn, and it was something to the effect of, I'll take care of me for you if you take care of you for me. And I always love that quote, because it makes you realize that, you can only be your best if you're taking the best care of yourself first. And you can't benefit anybody if you're not taking care of yourself. So it may seem like you are, but yet at the same time, I know that for me, if I'm not doing my self stuff, I have a whole lot less patience for everybody if I'm not, taking care of myself, because I get tired and I get cranky, and that makes it more difficult for everybody around me. So anyway, morning, Karen. Good to see you on. Lori, I don't know if you can hear us yet. I tried to say hey to you. I don't know if you can unmute and say hi.
Good morning, all. I've had internet problems all week long, and this is not too much of an exaggeration. I'll do a couple of keystrokes on the keyboard, and I'll look up and see disconnect.
I think we're having an example of that right now with her.
That was beautiful timing.
Oh man, Karen, I guess you'll catch up to us when your computer cooperates. I know there's a lot of people who've had some internet issues. I saw you unmute there, Lori.
Yeah.
Can we hear you?
Hello,
There you are.
I'm here.
Good morning.
I
Awesome.
don't know. I still can't get my video working. All this technology stuff is about to make me feel like a total numbskull. I don't know. Glad to
We
be
saw
here.
you when you first got on, but we couldn't hear you. Now we can hear you, but we can't see you. So
Well, Well, I kept trying to find the link and I couldn't find it. And then I got it on my phone and I couldn't hear anything there. So I went back to my computer. I'm like, okay, thank you, 5G, for upgrading our quality of internet service. And now I can't hear y'all again.
Oh, we were just letting you talk. We weren't saying anything.
I think I read something like this last week or something about them saying something about some solar plasma flares or something finally reaching the earth, and that might cause some havoc with. So I'm wondering if that's along with all this crazy weather that everybody's having, that we're dealing with that too. And so it's really getting everybody on the internet, because I was having troubles with mine this morning too.
Should I keep reading?
Yeah, sure. I mean, unless anybody has something else to say about codependency or addictive behaviors. Yep.
And we can go back to that too as
Yeah.
well.
Right. Yeah, go ahead and go forward.
Okay. Let's see where I was. Uh-oh. Lost my,
Nate
give me
first.
just a second.
But I have been looking for my secret key for my password vault, as though I don't have enough trouble with with my computer monitor blacking out and the Wi-Fi thing and so forth. But I have been going through a bunch of my journals, and I found a page. It really was more than one page, where I'd done some magazines thing or something about are you codependent? And I learned all kinds of things about myself with answering those questions. And this was some time ago. I have no idea which year that particular journal was in, but I think it helps so much to realize if you've got something going on, because when you think, you kind of blissfully go along in life. I remember when Melody, I think her name was Melody Beatty, did the Codependent No More stuff. And, I was thinking, hey, I'm obviously not codependent. And kind of like Catherine said, we all have a little something. I know you said that about the addiction, but I think we probably all have a little bit of codependency, even once we're past the stage where we have young children. In fact, I know that I lived with my son for a while, and especially after I came out of hospitals. There were 2 different times I'd had bipolar episodes that he'd had to kind of get me out of the hospital. Once he had to go up to Utah, to St. George, Utah, and get me out there. And my son seems to me, at least in all the ways that we talk about not caring about what other people think of him, and I would think that he's not codependent. That's not really true when I think about some other things, but I know that I had problems with trying to keep up with him, because he would do things and not worry about it, and I'd be all worried about him. I remember one time, I shouldn't say this, but none of you know him. the police were watching, and he went out to sit and relax in the front yard. And fortunately, it wasn't dark, or he would have been peeing out in the front yard. But I was somewhere else, and they picked him up and they took him in, and I could not find my son anywhere, and it was really a scary experience for me. And so there I am doing all the codependent things, where I'm, worried and calling and, all that kind of stuff. So that's my bit for now.
Well, I just have to say, if your son is missing and you don't know where he is and you keep calling, I don't consider that codependency. I think that's just a mom being concerned about her son. But I agree with you that most of us are codependent in some way. All right, I found where I was at, I think. Let's see. Why does it keep, oh, there it goes. Whoops. All right. I'm not exactly sure where I stopped on that page, so I may repeat a sentence, forgive me. The truth celebrates how intimately you know yourself by how open and available you're willing to be. Knowing this, life's most essential wisdom always remains the same. You'll feel better once you're totally honest. Many stray away from the value of what I call radical honesty out of a fear of facing the reaction of others. On a cellular level, whenever a person has an emotional reaction, their nervous system is releasing layers of conditioning. In the heart of surrender, you will see time and time again, whether you or anyone else is feeling, whatever you or anyone else is feeling is more patterns being healed. When you are unaware of how truly healing each reaction can be, you are likely to perceive it from within the framework of ego. In ego, it's common to project blame or act out a variety of defenses toward whomever you believe is the cause of your outburst. Due to the discomfort and inconvenient nature of certain feelings, excuse me, it makes sense why so many people would hope to avoid being honest, since it seems to instigate so many emotional reactions. Yet, when you know that whatever you or anyone else is feeling is a healing taking place, you are able to harmonize with the will of the universe to consciously advance the evolution of humanity, one heart-centered interaction at a time. Once everyday life is recognized as a playground of spiritual evolution, the real goal is learning how to courageously stand at the forefront of your own healing journey. As you accept how incredibly healing each moment can be, you are no longer obligated to judge yourself, even if failing to act in a loving manner. No matter how much effort is exhausted, the goal of acting in a heart-centered way does not occur on a regular basis when your nervous system is overstimulated. This is why unraveling the overstimulated nervous system in the most loving manner is the central theme of the new spiritual paradigm. By acknowledging how often the opportunity to heal yourself and others is offered throughout the play of life, your attachment to ego begins to dissolve. From that space, you are no longer victimized by reactions or in need of blaming anyone for how you feel. Equally so, you don't have to be afraid of projecting your feelings onto others, since it is only likely to occur when bottling up your emotions in an attempt to hold it all in. During the course of an emotional reaction, it may feel as if you are about to explode and cover everyone in sight with the ferocity of inner turmoil. However, if you welcome each sensation with openness and breathe into the center of whatever is felt, you can hold a sacred space for each moment of healing without being engulfed in discomfort, frustration, or pain. When you do not openly welcome emotions, the overstimulated nervous system is fueled into greater perpetual motion. Every time someone is blamed or judged for a reaction you are having, the cells being healed are immediately filled back up with patterns of emotional debris. This can lead to future moments of emotional reaction in which life orchestrates a series of events just to help you revisit the feelings that caused you to lash out, shut down, or withdraw. As each pattern is faced, you are liberated from tendencies to fight against the catalysts that inspire your most powerful moments of transformation. Through a renewed interest in welcoming your feelings and being honest with others, the more easily life can guide you into relationships that support your highest evolution. While some people believe others cannot handle their truth, the honesty I am suggesting is not a weapon of any kind. Radical honesty has nothing to do with confrontation, accusation, or blame. It is an instinctual level of discernment in noticing the difference between projecting accusations and openly sharing what is felt in your experience. I'll stop there because that is plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I'm reminded with this whole section of how everybody, well, not everybody, but so many people tend to blame everyone else for everything they feel. And, you know, and I feel like this plays out in social media so much where, you know, somebody will say some seemingly innocent thing and a bunch of people will take it completely the wrong way. And well, I mean, I guess wrong way is not the right, it's probably not the right wording, but they'll take it and emotionally lash back out because of whatever inner turmoil they're experiencing because of whatever that person had said or posted. And it creates this kind of like time in humanity where no one is taking responsibility for their own feelings and they're just blaming everyone else. And it is becoming more and more difficult for people to express themselves without having, you know, all this hatred shot towards them. And it's so, this little section in and of itself is what's shining light on the way forward for all of us. And yet so many people are so fearful of someone saying something that makes them feel a feeling, that there are literally people suing each other because they they're afraid to feel their feelings. You know, it's like if you could just face your own feelings and recognize how you are the one causing yourself turmoil, not that other person, then there, it's like the super overly sensitive. And I guess it's because of what, you know, what he's saying here with this overstimulated nervous system. And that, you know, if we could just recognize that we're causing our own turmoil versus everyone else out there, because we can't control what another person thinks or feels about something that we say. Because I've noticed people all over the internet that will say something that to me doesn't seem like they're trying to attack someone. They're just sharing their opinion on something. And then, you know, and then all of these people are offended by it. Like it's that person's fault for ever opening their mouth and saying a word of any kind. And yet Matt is telling us right here that all of these opportunities are opportunities for growth, you know, of feeling our feelings, of feeling whatever it is that we are reacting to, and growing as a person versus immediately lashing out and blaming the other person for the feelings that we feel. You know, it's like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'll jump out and throw a little bit in on this too. It's interesting, and don't make fun of me for the program I was watching. I read a little bit about it and thought it might be interesting to watch this program. And it's on, I think, HBO Max. I don't know which one of my apps it's on, but it's a show called Gossip Girl. And it's loosely based on, I guess, a TV series that was several years ago. And the premise is about, you know, there's this one main character that seems to access somehow kind of behind the scenes, but without being firsthand knowledge of what's going on, and they project their thoughts out through, in this case, like Instagram and stuff and social media, what they think is going on. But then people tend to take what this person says as gospel or as truth without anything being put into context. And like the one episode I just watched, one of the characters' father, her dad, was accused of inappropriate actions with several different women. But none of the women ever came forward. And another woman came forward and was lying for one of the women, saying that she was the subject of something that happened, but it never happened to her. But she was, I think, trying to bring something about against this girl's father in order for him to make him pay for what he did for other people, without anything ever being put into context of what the real truth of what happened was. And his daughter went to talk to one of the women that it actually happened to, but she said, there's not enough for me to make any claim because I myself do not really know what happened. I don't remember anything. Well, at the same point, the father doesn't really remember anything either, because of when he was drinking and doing drugs and stuff at that time. So in that case, there was a lot of unremembered things that might have transpired. But then she went to talk to the girl to try to get her come forward, and she said, I can't, not, and but she finally, realized that, well, maybe I should. But now the daughter's saying, well, if you come forward, this is not the right time, because you will make everything else unravel against this other woman who is trying to be shown that she's not credible. And yet they got this gossip girl caught her talking to, and made the presumption that, oh, she's trying to force this woman to be quiet, when she was really in actuality. So I think that's another thing about with like social media and people and misconceptions and perceptions, going back to the idea of perceptions of what we think or what we see or what we project on what's going on between other people, may not really be what's happening, but yet we're perceiving it, and then we're telling it to other people, or we're spreading it or putting out there, or like you said, Samantha, people are just sharing an opinion without attacking anybody, but then in turn getting attacked because of everything that's going on. And nowadays, I think people are becoming more and more afraid to even say anything because of the feeling that they're going to get attacked, or they're, when their stuff's going to be misinterpreted, or everybody's going to take everything else that everybody else says as being the actual truth, rather than going to that person firsthand and going to them and saying, what did you mean? Or open dialogue with that person and say, okay, what were you trying to say here? Let me understand what you're saying, so that way I can then make my decision and conclusion myself based off what you tell me. But no, nowadays we base so many things off of hearsay, so to speak, and then it becomes gospel. And I think that's, going back to what you said, Samantha, that, maybe, excuse me, he's hitting on something here that, we are afraid to be honest and open and, share our truths, because I think we're afraid that we're going to get attacked anyway, and people are going to try to say, no, that's not the truth. This is not what, and then it makes us question ourselves maybe at some point. And so I think he's right. I think he is, kind of starting to hit it on the head that, you got to be strong enough in your own wherewithal to be able to share that truth and be confident in it.
I can tell you that an overstimulated nervous system is exactly how I have lived. I've had trouble getting a hold of the understanding and definition of codependency. Being disabled and living with a disabled person, we have a very dynamic codependent situation that's a different type of codependency. I think we all depend on other people to make a codependent type situation, that we all depend on other people. Anyway, I'm totally believing now, especially, that multiple sclerosis could very definitely be a cause or an effect of very dysfunctional situation I've lived with my entire life. My mom was bipolar. My dad was pretty much absentee. What I don't mean pretty much, he was gone all the time as a truck driver. And being the eldest daughter, I'm not old. Feeling responsible for everything that wasn't technically supposed to be an 8-year-old's responsibility. So you grow up trying to figure out some way, how do I deal with these feelings? And if I said anything, I was told, no, it wasn't like that, or no, that's not right, or something to disqualify what I thought or felt or believed. It just wasn't ever correct according to so-and-so or this other person, or the way life should be, whatever. How are you supposed to make sense out of that? And I totally understand how other people might not know how to deal with it, trying to get my story out there without being judged or criticized. It's just impossibility, because I don't think it's for anyone else to understand or know how I could possibly do what I've done or say what I've said. And I heard the coolest thing the other day. I don't remember where I heard it, but this whole internet dating thing is just bizarre, because you never know who you're talking to. It's somebody fake and pretending to be somebody they're not, or whatever. And now I've gotten myself all confused where I was going with this, that overstimulated nervous system is not a fun thing to deal with, no matter how it manifests. And it could be different things for different people. So I totally understand how it can cause addictive personality traits. I'll let it go for now.
Yeah, this is what a beautiful teaching to encourage self-love, because we are overstimulated. We are forcefully overstimulated. Well, I mean, we have the choice to do what I did, move off grid and get away from any kind of stimulation. And that was a necessary time in my life for healing that needed to be done then. But at some point, in order to plug back into society, you wind up turning your electronics on. And once the electronics are on, it's constant overstimulation. Now, this condition that I'm dealing with my foot, they tell me is because my central nervous system is overstimulated. So thankfully, I know tons of techniques to kind of decrease that. But this business about, when you don't express your feelings, or when you don't say what you want to say because you're afraid of the consequences of being judged or whatnot, or you you're not honest with someone about something because of fear of being judged, and that holding that in, overstimulating your nervous system. I mean, so many of us do that, and they are linking an overstimulated nervous system not only to the condition that I have and MS and lupus and all these other autoimmune conditions, and a lot of what we consider psychological or mental conditions. All of that, a decreased immune system, which makes people more susceptible to viruses and different things. All of that is being caused by overstimulation of the nervous system. Like the pay word these days is limbic system. Let's reset your limbic system. Everybody and their brother's a coach now on how to reset your limbic system, because that decreases the overstimulation and helps all these different conditions. So what a beautiful thing that Matt has exposed here, because most people don't consider, they might consider turning off the electronics and learning yoga and learning deep breathing and yada yada, but they probably aren't thinking or considering that what they're not saying or what they're not being honest about in their life can be a driving force in that overstimulation. And I so agree with you, Samantha, with social media. I mean, there's so many things that people say that it doesn't bother me, but it does bother other people. And then there's things that people say that doesn't seem to bother anybody else, and it bothers the heck out of me. So again, another gift, especially to parents, to realize that little child that you're raising is its own eternal soul on its own journey, having its own experience. I hate to refer to a child as an it, but I think you get where I'm going. Like that little child has their own experience. And so if they're telling you that they see so and so in the corner and you're telling them that they're not seeing it, then that's when that stuffing starts. At least for me, that's when the stuffing started. Is, oh, what do you mean that's not there? Then that means I'm not seeing it. Instead of saying to myself, well, I'm seeing it, which actually I was pretty good at that. I've been pretty good about standing up for being different, but a lot of people don't. And there are things that I've seen that I've never told anybody for fear of the reaction I'd get. So it's so important to validate everyone's experience, even if it's different from yours. And this business of radical honesty, there is a way. I have just experienced this so much this past week, especially. There are ways to be honest with someone about things, about very difficult situations and feelings, without how do I want to say this, without losing face or something, without, like, it feels so much better once the honesty comes out about it, because then there's just such a sigh of relief, and a lot of that pent up overstimulation kind of relaxes. It really does. So I think I love this book, and I'm really glad we are covering it.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things that, like, what you were saying, there are ways to communicate without being hurtful. I mean, you can communicate your feelings without doing it in such a way that you are lashing out at the other person, and that is hard because we weren't taught that as kids. Everything I saw between my parents was lashing out at each other or just not saying anything. My mother would be the one lashing out. My father would be the one that's just sit there and not say a word and just be like, whatever, to her. So he's not validating her feelings. He's not acknowledging her feelings or her her opinions and whatnot. And then my mom is just lashing out, blaming everything on him, and that's how I was raised, So it's like, how can we have this better interpersonal communications where we can express our true feelings without saying it in such a way that's hurtful to another person, and being open to hear what the other person has to say without being hurt by it, because I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is that, they think that because one person feels a feeling and they don't agree with it, that they must be they must be lashing out at you, instead of just being open to hearing what other people have to say, and allowing for them to have their own opinions, and be okay with that. I mean, that's such a huge thing. And when we can say we have and a situation that arises in our lives with the people that we love, and we don't like it, whatever it happens to be, and we want to say something, and it's hard to calm yourself down enough to get to a point where you can have a rational conversation when you're so upset. It's difficult, and yet that is the key. We have to be honest with each other and be straightforward in our relationship. Otherwise, one or the both of us is constantly shoving things down, putting our feelings second, putting our desires and wants and needs second to that other person. And yet, I mean, like it's saying, this radical honesty, that's what we need. We all need that. We need to be able to express ourselves not and be able to express ourselves without the other person instantaneously taking what we say personally, and or reacting like we are trying to attack them, and that's the rub, because we weren't taught how to do that, but yet that's what we really need to be able to do and move. It's just better interpersonal communications, like learning the right words, being able to say how you feel without saying it in an accusing manner, and without saying it in a confrontational manner, so that the other person can hear you, and also allowing for them to say what they want to say in the same way.
Interesting what you were just talking about, because it's interesting. I've had a little bit of free time, and I've used that time to kind of decompress. And I think it was last weekend, I actually, and I like the Ice Age movies. I just think they're fun and just, I enjoy them. And I was watching the new one that they released called Ice Age, something, The Adventures of Buck Wild or something like that. And there are two possums that have become part of the storyline. And in that, they come to a point where within the whole thing, they have learned to where they stop and say, choose your words, say your things of what you're wanting to say, but the other people have to kind of like give you that safe space and let you say it. And then the other side is then given a chance to say their words kind of in the same way. But it's, but they had to be intentional. They had to stop and really make that effort. And I don't think there's enough of, like you were saying, Samantha, we don't go that far. People just react and don't stop and say, oh, wait a minute, let me give them space and let me hear what they're saying and validate it, and then come back with what I want to say, but not in that I can't say that word, because by saying it accusingly, I can't say it the other way I wanted to say it. But we aren't really taught. art of real communication of, like I think the old-fashioned debates, when they used to have debates, one side would present their side, then the other side would present their side, and then they go back and say, okay, your rebuttal, but they would do it in a manner of where you could say, but it was more controlled, and so people could then hear and listen to what you were saying and keep it within that realm and not personalize it so much. And I think in this day and age, we love to weaponize anything and everything, for our own defense, because that's what we've seen, and that's what's been modeled, and that's what's been around for eons.
Yeah, like I like how you used that example of the debate, because in those debate kind of scenarios, you're not being accusing towards the other person or confrontational. You are just sharing an opinion, a fact, information, a point of view, and all of that, and you're sharing that information in a a presentation kind of a style, and then the other person does the same thing, and then you have this opportunity to think about that other person's point of view before you go. I mean, and instead of just lashing back out of that person like they're the cause of the problem, or they're the issue, or they're the whatever, rather, it was, and I think that's a key, even in communicating with our family, is stop the blaming and the judging and the accusatory statements and those kinds of things, and just share, this is my perspective and I need to share it, and this is what I'm feeling, and these are the situations that are causing it, or whatever, or they are not necessarily causing it, but these are the situations that are arising, this is what I'm experiencing from that, and I need to work with you on this, something along that lines, about, rather than you never this and you never that, and I hate it when you and you're just a blah, and when we do that, then that automatically creates a situation where the other person has no choice, if you will, to defend themselves and tell you all the reasons why you're the problem, rather than stating, let's talk about a situation that is separate from us, that I am feeling feelings about. And when we can take that problem or whatever it is and say, hey, we have this problem that we need to work on, share your opinion with me on what the issue is, and I'll share my opinion with you on what the issue is, and let's see how we can find a compromise, or let's see how we can work on this together, because we're partners, or because we're sisters, or we're brothers, or we're friends, or children, or whatever we are. Why can't we work on this to create a solution for ourselves together, rather than attacking each other like they're the problem, so anyway, interpersonal communication, maybe we need to study a book on just that.
Yeah, I agree. The whole shame and blame and the compare and criticize, or compare and compete, is just too much. The whole world is codependent and no one is really getting to the core of it.
Well, I'm going to throw this part out, and I think you guys know me by now. I throw and play devil's advocate sometimes, but a lot of times people don't want to go to that route and take that time, and they're just so like, no, my point of view is right, I'm the only one that's right, and everybody else is wrong, and I'm not going to change that, and I don't want to talk about it. That's, I think, another part of something that we got to work on within ourselves, because I know I can get like that at times, in order to even foster and start moving to be able to work on it from what we were just saying, making it more of an open and free space to where you can express and hopefully enrich and help the other side to understand where you're coming from and to work on it, like Samantha said, an answer that fits the situation and not any particular side, but fits the situation and appropriately, equally makes all sides happy. And so that's my little bit.
Let me try again. Can anyone hear me? Hello?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Oh, man.
We thought we had you, Karen.
You froze up again, honey. Well,
Can you-
while we're waiting for her to unfreeze, I think that we have to, and we've learned this through other books that we've read and life experiences and stuff. If somebody says something, whether it's on social media or in person or whatever, that upsets you, it's really hard in the moment to not react. It is. But if you can take a breath and step back and ask yourself, why does that upset me so much? Sometimes, just like this chapter says, that is a moment that can be a moment of healing for you if you can step back and say, instead of react, just step back and say, okay, why does that bother me so much? Now, sometimes you have to wait until later to do that. Obviously, you're in a conversation, but it's okay to ask to continue this conversation at a later time until you've had more time to reflect on it. It's okay to step away from a situation that's making you uncomfortable. Nobody says that you have to just necessarily face all your demons in one moment. It's okay if you lose it with people. Everybody loses it with somebody at some point. I think as humans, we understand that. And sometimes when you can bring forth that radical honesty and say, this is very upsetting and this is why, and explain that, then the person may be able to relate to you on a completely different, because oftentimes I don't know, we think that everybody's a mind reader and we think that whatever we think about something is what somebody else obviously sees about the situation, and it's not. Like, we all have our own experience, and sometimes just bringing forth your experience, especially if it's something that you have felt shame or guilt or something like that over, and when you can bring that out and let that go, and somebody else can see that, and even if they judge you for it, like, it still feels better for it to be out. But oh, Karen's moving again. Come back on, Karen. You were frozen, honey.
Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
good. Now, if I can just remember what I was going to say. I was thinking, with this internet going in and out, we've been on Zoom before. I'm not the only person who remembers that. And here we are back on Zoom. And I was thinking the other day how many different platforms we've used with some of these kinds of problems. that, you know, if your context isn't right. I thought that was really helpful, Dan, that you said that there's some
Oh, crud, another solar flare.
Oh, well, there you go. There we go.
and I doubt that. Well, I don't know that big companies are made up of people, and you know, I suppose if a company loses a lot of um, their groups and so forth, you know, they could kind of take that personally once in a while, and you know, that can be an occasional reason why a company might go out of business or stop whatever it is that they're doing. And I realize that's not thinking about us, but that's a thought that I've had. And then in reference to, you know, what other people see and think's important, prayer has just been a large part of my life. And I, when I had 2 children in diapers, I had to make a real effort to find a way to just remember, you know, to pray daily. And so last night I was kind of going around in my apartment by myself, and I was thinking, you know, I do most of my prayer in my head. And there was a fellow here that when I ate with him, and I noticed from afar when a couple ate with him, he would ask them if they minded if he prayed, you know, for the meal, and then he wanted to hold hands with whoever was there. And I was thinking about how, you know, speaking of trying to please other people or something, I was thinking how I never in public pray over my food except in my head. And then I remembered one of our books, and I can't remember which one this was at the time, but it, you know, was teaching us. I think it was the most recent one. I think it was Jared that was teaching us that, you know, we are our own God, and you know, we decide how we set up our relationship with God, and that's perfectly fine. And of course, that suited me well. If I can, the more stuff that I can decide for myself, the better it is. So anyway, I hope that makes a little bit of sense. I hope I didn't get knocked off in and out too much so that you could understand what I was saying.
Yeah, we heard you pretty good. You only kind of froze up there for a moment, Karen. Well, guys, we are well past the top of the hour today. Anybody have any other final thoughts before we wrap up? Nope. Okie dokie. All right. Well, for those of you who are out there watching,
I don't see Catherine shaking her head. Don't you think we need her to shake her head and wave her arm?
just unmute in order to tell us. I think we're all good.
It's all good. It's amazing how much
We're good.
has come across me recently about codependency, and that it's just how it just all falls into place when it's supposed to, I guess. Love you guys.
Isn't that true? These lessons always show up when we most need them, regardless of what they are. It always is like perfect. And I made a comment in the chat, and that'll be my last comment, is that I'm just so grateful that we have been brave enough, those of us on this panel, to do this mastermind. And there actually was a point where we sort of shifted a little bit from the kinds of books that we were covering towards a different kind of a books. And that it was a little bit uncomfortable at times. Like I didn't want to suggest books because I thought maybe they were too far out there, and I didn't want to leave anybody out of conversations. And you know, I'm just glad that we did. I'm glad that we were brave enough to do this. And I think that I know it has been helpful for me, and I feel like it has been helpful for everybody here on the panel. And I'm just glad that we were brave enough to cover some, quote, controversial topics, I guess. I love you guys.
Yeah, I'll jump out and kind of echo that same sentiment, because I can remember back when, back when I think it was when we were doing the Wayne Dyer Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And I really was not really one that was looking forward to that book, but yet I stepped out of myself, and because of my beliefs and what I believe, and and it was interesting because even though I didn't get a lot in the beginning, I thought I wouldn't get anything really out of it because I didn't think how it could help accentuate and enhance my own beliefs. But as we went through the book, I saw correlations and things that did. So in that, I'm glad I stepped out, my comfort zone, and didn't just sit there and say, hey, I'll sit this one out or whatever. And it taught me a big thing that sometimes, in order to help grow and understand things, doesn't necessarily mean it has to change me or my thoughts or even my values or my faith. It just means it adds into it and grows it and makes it better and stronger, and gives me more to work with in stuff like what we're talking about now, and dealing with other people and trying to be more contemplative of how I respond and what I say, and be more open to hearing what other people say and take it in for what it's worth, and hopefully then learn something from it. Or it might not change my mind. If it doesn't change my mind, it doesn't change my mind. But hopefully when I come back, I can come back and express my feelings and my views and thoughts to where they can understand. And sometimes I'm not always good at that, and I'm just as human as anybody else. But I will echo that same sentiment, and I love you all too.
Yeah, I am. I'm just so thankful everybody stuck with it, because we have all learned a lot and grown a lot together, and in within ourselves as well, and that's a big deal. And without this, I mean, who knows what we would be doing? But with our Saturday mornings, maybe nothing. We would just be sitting here like bumps on a log. I don't know, but I'm glad that we've stuck with it, because I know there has been times where we've just kind of, I don't know, when one of us kind of is like a blah blah, then the others of us kind of pick us back up and show us why we're here again. And like any good relationship, we have our our times where we're more helpful to helpful with each other, and then we kind of, it's just kind of like a little roller coaster of experiences. So it's been really, really amazing. I mean, I know there was a time where I wasn't sure that we were going to continue this, and I'm so glad that we did. And so I'm just very, very thankful, and I'm planning to keep on going. So Love you guys so very much. And for those of you who are watching, if you're still watching at this point in the video, my goodness, why aren't you joining us? You know, I mean, we obviously have some things to talk about that you could talk about too. So if you want to join us, find us at mindsetmasterycollective.com. That's our website where you can find links to get into our Facebook group. You'll find links to find us on YouTube if that isn't where you're watching us now, which I'm assuming that you are because we post everything on YouTube. And there's links below these videos too, where you can get into our Facebook group and connect with us and join and participate. So we'd love to have you. But with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week. We'll see you next time.